Well, good evening, Warriors, and welcome to another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Robert Hagan, and the
Yeah,
our buddy, the guy from the East Coast, Eric Watkins, joining me again. Eric, how are you, buddy?
I'm feeling good. It's always good to come on, We're coming off the bench, good, get a pinch hit. You got my solid swing going. I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting night. Like you said, Eric is filling in a little bit. Randy hopefully will join us after a bit. Was listening to him call the game. Lewiston lost their first one against Coeur d'Alene. We'll get into that a little bit later, but they were in the bottom of the second here a few minutes ago. So he'll probably join us around hopefully the 7 o'clock hour and join us with that. But buddy, first of all, I gotta talk to you. I see you're sporting your Western Bulldogs shirt. They came off a huge win there the other day. Congrats on that.
Thank you. Very hard fought against Brisbane. Great work in defense. We're managing. We're going through now round 4. We're 2-2. I'm feeling good about myself, but I know we're gonna talk about this later. What is going on with your Cats? I'm a little concerned.
I think we're all a little concerned, but I tell you what, they played a heck of a game in the let's put it this way, in the second half. First half still looked a little crazy, but that second half was one heck of a second half. So excited to talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But also another big one, and you said it off the air a few minutes ago. Your Rays, man, we're going to talk about them in the bottom of the hour a little bit. Man, they're up 7-1 over Boston right now, looking to extend this to an 11-game win streak to start things off.
11 down, 2 to go to tie the record. I say no more. 82 Braves, 87 Brewers, we're coming for you.
And it will be interesting as we talk about that here coming up. We might dive into a little. Just under 2 weeks, or just over 2 weeks away from the NFL draft happening on the 27th. So we'll talk a little bit of draft stuff. The second full week of Major League Baseball is in the books. My favorite golf tournament of the entire year happened this past weekend. We'll talk a little bit of Masters. Want to get your take with some live stuff intertwined. I know how much you love the live compared to Mr. Isbell, so we'll talk a little live golf tonight. And you and I did a little draft yesterday. We're going to get your hopefully we'll see if you can pick up your first win in the sports related draft. We'll do that here. Other than that, what's going on down in northern Florida?
I gotta say, in the sports world, everybody's definitely getting excited for the Jaguars coming off a great season, going for the draft. The Armada are making big news, finding a league to return now that we're about to break ground on the new stadium. I'm excited. Jumbo Shrimp are doing some wonderful Jumbo Shrimp things, although we're not the weirdest story in minor league baseball over the last week, but in a way, that's a good thing. A very good thing.
If you have not heard about that, we will bring that up at the end of the Major League Baseball session. Lots going on. So, sir, let's get into it first. And I know you don't know this man, but you've probably seen him on the show. I want to send out a big congratulations to a buddy of ours, the Lewiston Athletic Director, Corey Williams. Comes away with the 5A Athletic Director of the Year for the state of Idaho. So congratulations to him in a year where he's getting ready to take a change. He's getting ready. If you have not heard, as he did make the news as things finally make the news of his job transfer. He's going to be leaving Lewiston Athletics to take a principal job at the middle school in Lewiston. So, he's finishing out his track and softball and baseball stuff. So, congratulations again to Corey Williams on great honor with that one. So, dude, we're 28 followers away from 700. It's getting closer to that number. We're just keep climbing and climbing, especially with everything going on.
I've been spreading the word because I know you've got your plans for your latest milestones, and I'm not going to go and openly campaign for someone who's not here to defend themselves, to be able to get a chance to defend themselves. But, I have some preferences about a certain someone who would benefit from a little bit of specialized training, if you will. You know,
Yeah, we still got to get over there. We're down to 2 weeks left on that as the boys get ready to have their MMA fight this next on the 28th in Lewiston. There is an MMA fight for some of the other local fighters that's happening this Thursday. I'll be traveling up to go watch that on Thursday night at Conquest in the Cage up in Worley, Idaho. So we'll be going up there to listen to that. But it has been a lot of time coming. So I think as soon as we finish up World Series, I think both of us get in the gym and we pay up our bet. So we'll see how that goes. All right, Sarah, let's jump into it. Let's jump into some NFL. NFL has been kind of quiet. Still lots of going on, shuffling. The same stories are still plotting up. Let's start with Mark Murphy really quick, as today Mark Murphy quoted himself a couple of times that he was kind of not quite brushing the whole Aaron Rodgers thing out of it, but he really didn't want to talk much about anything going on still between Aaron Rodgers, the Packers, and the New York Jets.
now, the big thing for me, and this was always what was going to be going on in the offseason, what was he going to do in Aaron Rodgers? And then from there, what he says and he puts out there, who was going to get the leverage? Now that we know, after his announcement on the Pat McAfee show, training with players wanting to play for the Jets, put it open, his time as a Packer is done. Now, this still gives the Jets tremendous leverage, but I think the main issue is how are they going to play this with the proper compensation? They went ahead and they got Alan Lazard. They were supposedly in the OBJ sweepstakes, which we'll get into later. So you've got some major pieces, but now it's all about heavy, heavy, heavy crunching of numbers. And as you said, with the draft now just a few weeks away, I think the clock is going to be ticking a little faster, but both teams are still really good trying to play it close to the vest. You would hope that even though they're not saying it publicly, there's a lot of phone calls and dialogue going on privately. Maybe the blockbuster trade during that first round finally gets announced and everyone knows. I think that would be a great storyline, but who's to tell?
And I would, with asking that, and then you make a great point, and maybe this is just me also kind of in the same scenario, but not so much. Does the New York Jets start really freaking out whether or not what they need to do over the in the next 2 weeks? Do they draft a quarterback? Do they sit back and wait for things happen? Mark Murphy made it so. And those of you that don't know, Mark Murphy is the uh, what do we president of the president of the Green Bay Packers. What does if you're a Jets fan, are you starting to stress with 2 weeks to go?
I'm stressing a little bit because options have narrowed, but there's still pretty decent options. I mean, would they maybe try to sneak some sort of backdoor deal for Lamar Jackson? Would they go ahead and use that draft capital, try to negotiate and fit themselves in for a first round quarterback? You've got some decent plans B and C, but you're hoping that you don't need those plans B and C. So if I'm in the New York area wearing green and white, I'm a little nervous, but I would be more nervous if this were, say, a week from now and we're still having the same discussion.
So you made a good point a second ago, and I know we talked about it. Now, also, again, we're getting that closer.
Mm-hmm.
Do we see a major deal or major trade go down in the first round? You see a little. Not. I don't think last year for me it wasn't near as big of a trade that happened compared to some of the others. But do we see a major uh, trade happen in the first round of this draft coming up?
I wouldn't necessarily call it major. I think a lot of the big stuff is going to be taken care of behind the scenes. You're going to get major announcements. But as far as the trades come that night, I think you're going to see some minor ones, maybe shuffling those top few picks, maybe some unexpected takes of which quarterback going where. But I personally don't see too much beyond that.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy to see what happens, especially with the draft being in Kansas City. So it's going to be interesting how the fan bases take and really fall in, and when it's in New York, you get a wide
Mm-hmm.
variety of people. Same as what Vegas. This time, I don't see the draft being near as as there's lots of different fans. I think we're
Oh
going to be
yeah.
seeing a lot more Kansas City bias in this one.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have your Chiefs Kingdom really show up, especially towards the end of the first round. But don't be surprised if you go wandering around the streets and having people sampling that world famous barbecue leading up to those last few picks. So if you're finding yourself near the stage, you're going to see a lot of red. But if you're wandering around the best barbecue joints, that's where your real fandoms are really going to be.
Uh, let's take a jump, and we talked. You said a little bit about Kansas City. We'll talk about him here in a second with Patrick Mahomes, but I want to dive into the story that kind of takes this turn this way. How about Cliff Kingsbury? He's back from Thailand, sir. He has made his trip back from Thailand, and now he is going to be becoming the quarterback coach for USC under Lincoln Riley. What do you think about this? Because you look at some of the names that Cliff Kingsbury has dealt with over the last few years. Probably the best name in that is going to be Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at some of the other names that he has dealt with; they haven't had so much good luck. And I'm speaking of Case Keenum. He's basically a backup role. Johnny Manziel really didn't have, yeah, Johnny really didn't have the pro career he was wanting. Is this a good move for Lincoln Riley to hire Cliff Kingsbury to help out at USC?
You look at the quarterback talent that they have at USC, and everything boils down to Caleb Williams. Is this a move to really get Caleb Williams the support he needs to not really go all out, but the next level to really help USC get that final push into the college football playoff before they leave for the Big Ten? And I think that this is what this is about. That name recognition, star power helping star power, and once that move happens and they're competing with the likes of your Michigans, your Ohio States, Minnesotas, Wisconsin, what have you, that little bit of extra boost in recruiting saying, hey, you got your Southern California market, NFL expertise as a head coach, be it for what it was, a guy that's really helped work with some big names, even to varying degrees of success. You get a little recency bias, and Caleb Williams has another Heisman caliber season. That's going to help with recruiting. I think this is what it's really going to be about.
Yeah, that was the big story coming out there today, seeing that he is going to make his way back into football. Not much of a break, so it'll be interesting to see where his mindset is. Maybe we really find out that Cliff Kingsbury is more designed for the college game than really even designed for the NFL and what's going on with those guys. You touched on it a minute ago. Let's get the other monkey out of the room, so to speak. But how about OBJ? OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. signs a 1-year deal with my Baltimore Ravens. What does this mean in context with Lamar Jackson? Do we see Lamar really want to play with OBJ?
You got a guy who has a ring. And if you look at the deal, given the wide receiver market, it's very friendly. 15 million as their base, up to 18 million with incentives. I think that was really the power move in saying, "Hey Lamar, we understand getting real Hollywood Brown, wanting to develop you as a passer. We've got something for you. Yes, we know you want your fully guaranteed money, but hey, give us a shot. Let us show that if you only take a little bit less, we can still build this team around you and we can contend with the likes of Cincinnati in the AFC North and with all of these other really stacked AFC teams. You can still be that guy." Now, whether or not Lamar wants to be that guy in Baltimore is really going to be up to him. I'm hoping maybe OBJ is making a phone call, but that's up to him.
I really hope that's the same thing too. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, he has gotten things a little bit better. You see the weapons around him. They're striving to do it. Bateman came on a little bit there towards the end. Mark Andrews, number probably one. I probably number two. I'll go ahead and say it. You almost have to put Travis Kelce number one guy, easily top three with George Kittle, him as a tight end. So you've got somebody there. Yes, J.K. Dobbins was hurt the year before, so they really leaned on Lamar. It'll be interesting to see. He's starting to get those weapons a little bit to where I think things are interesting. But I heard a comment today, and I want your take on it, and I really would like to know. Do you think it's the money that he's wanting? I heard a number today that kind of threw me for a bit of a curveball to the point of Lamar's looking for 50 million guaranteed every year. Is that I don't know if it could get that much, but I mean, are we thinking that if for this deal to get done, are we looking between the numbers of 40 and 50 million per year?
I would honestly say, and the fact that Lamar has been just such a stud when he's available, I have to put in that caveat when he's available. And I get all the things that he said about the team and who's treated the injuries and things. I put that in my mind attitude wise. I put that in my mind that he doesn't have an agent, but I'm looking at what he's doing on the football field. I'm sorry. 50 million for him, it's not cutting it. If I bite the bullet and I'm getting closer into the 40s, maybe between 40 and 45 on a shorter term deal, I would go ahead and swallow that and say, okay, we have this window. But if he's looking for a longer 5-6 year deal at that kind of money, yes, you're going to have increases in the salary cap. Yes, you're going to have increases in revenue and everything else. But those first couple of years are going to be very key where discontent comes in. And that's where his percentage of the salary cap is going to be larger. Better for the long term, but that's the number range that I would circle really in mind, that 40 to 45. I think if cooler heads prevail, something like that could get done.
You know, we've talked about it, and Baltimore went out and got the new OC, brings him in from the college rank, designed games where he worked with Stetson and what he could do with that ball club. I think they're really trying to get to his strengths. With that being said, his strengths has always been his legs. We know he's not a big passer, huge passer. It has gotten better over the last 4 years.
Yeah, there's definitely been some improvement and development, which is what they wanted.
There's the growth in there, but the big question mark, even on the night of the draft when he was drafted 2018, 2000, Yes, 2018. I had to think about it for a minute. During in April of 2018, that was the big question mark that was getting thrown around was, can he withstand the running back quarterback all year because of the way he or for the first 5 years, 6 years, how long of a career does he have in this kind of a role where he has been the major runner? Now you look at, he sat out the last few games. You know
Hmm.
that's got to be a red flag coming from management. Do we stick out this money? Who has brought a new type of game to the NFL? This is a great roadmap. So, do you spend a little bit more money? I think you could easily get away with paying 40 to 45. I'm like you. In that 40 to
Hmm.
45 million dollar window, I think you can make things work. Now, how long? That's the other story, is because if you go fully guaranteed after 5 years, even if we say he goes 5 more years, what's the chances of an injury happening to a man that's going to be 30, 31 by the end of that contract? Or, he's wanting that 10-year deal, that 12-year deal. It'll be
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and I've seen the comp as far as contracts and fully guaranteed and everything. And the biggest comparison I have seen is Kirk Cousins. I have said I don't know how many times Kirk Cousins, fantastic at 1 p.m. Eastern games. You put him in just about any other time slot, not so much. And I'm looking at like, okay, his guaranteed deals. I don't think he was worth it for Minnesota, and I think they have not just made one, but multiple mistakes. And I think the Ravens as an organization are wise to look at that and say, hey, we have a much better product and a much better quarterback in Lamar Jackson, but we don't want to make those same mistakes. Reasonably, if I were to come to the table with him and say, okay, we're going to build around a little bit. We know we gave you the non exclusive franchise tag. Give us 2 years. 2 years will fully guarantee 45 million a year. If you can go ahead, let us build, stay healthy, continue to develop, we'll continue to compete and push you in a position to win, then in 2 years, we will talk. To me, that seems like the best case scenario.
And I think that's it's what it's going to be. I think for them to get something done, it's going to have to be a small year window. Maybe it's a 3 year this time, and maybe keep doing 3 years, maybe over the next few years, if that's what
Mm-hmm.
happens. So, other news coming out of South Florida this past week. Wide receiver Tyreek Hill says, "I'm going to finish out my contract in 2025 and be done." Are you shocked of a short, what I think is a short career?
Yes and no, because this has really become, with all of the players looking for themselves, health, safety, accomplishments. We have seen a lot of young retirements. And in the case of Tyreek Hill, while there hasn't been any too many significant injuries so far, he's showing, hey, I'm the cheetah. I can go out. I can make a very lengthy career for myself outside of football. I've got my stats. I've got my ring. There's nothing else significantly that I would really need to prove. And the fact, I applaud him for saying, hey, I can go out and do my thing while I'm still young, but at the same time saying, hey, I'm not going to leave you as a Dolphins high and dry. Y'all gave me a chance and got me in this trade. You're giving me what I want. I'm still burning. I'll give you these last few years, but then after that, I'm out. To me, no notes. This is perfect. And if he decides to take the Pat McAfee route of having his own show, podcast, or whatever media, count me for tuning in too.
And I think we're close to that same thing. Is maybe he's making a statement of, I'm ready to keep playing with Tua. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's going to boil down to where the injuries are with Tua. He's quoted as saying this week as he's excited for the 2023 year. I think they keep a little bit different look on him. I'm hoping over the next few weeks we can start talking about the idea of how things are going to look medically with everything going on with him and how things are taking a turn. I think we'll look for those kind of contracts to be a little bit shorter between teams nowadays. If there's even any question about who are you working with as far as medically, as a doctor or as a team physician, there's different organizations that take care of their players a heck of a lot better than
Mm-hmm.
other organizations based on uh, what you do in the off season, what you do medically to keep yourself fit. And so, you know, with the smarts of some of these players now, I think they're looking more into that also,
Oh,
besides
yes.
money and besides the capital or what franchise you want to play with is who can keep me at almost 100% or who can keep me
Mm-hmm.
healthy enough to play the game I love to do. You have to admit Miami is not at the peak level of who you want taking care of you.
No, I mean, for all of the great health facilities through South Florida and even going to Central Florida, I was flat out appalled at how Miami and their team physicians handled the whole situation with Tua. They got what they deserved. They should not have been physicians in that. And if they've cleaned house and have done things properly, yes, willing to give them a chance. But as you had mentioned, and boiling it down to the player's perspective, who is really going to look after me? Who is really going to help keep me on the field? Because I know what I'm going to be doing in the off season. I'm going to have my regiment, my people, my workouts, everything else. And you're demanding practices, OTAs, all of this stuff. If I'm going to go on this, 7 months officially, but really a 12-month a year job, if I'm going to be doing this, who on your team is going to help keep me those other 5 months and everything else? And I think you're right. Miami has a long way to go. I hope that they learn from this and getting better and that the front office is getting takeaways. That on top of from a few weeks back, the player report cards as well for other bits of team facilities. And yeah, if they've shown that, yes, they really have improved and changed, then all right, you're going to still get this top caliber talent.
And that's 100%. Whether even the Players Association and league officials, they're starting to look out for these guys long term, which we wish would have happened with some of the older players from the 70s, from earlier in time, who are having the issues they are now. So
Right.
with that being said, let's stay kind of in the health field for just 1 second. How did you feel about the story coming out of Dwayne Haskins' wife and the lawsuit that is happening with two restaurants, the driving range, and I forget the other one the name that's in the suit, but she's suing them for him being drugged before he gets hit by the vehicle that kills him.
I admit this came way out of nowhere and it's peculiar. And I'm wondering to myself, what proof and how much does she have that is credible in order to be able to bring up the suit? Because, yes, you've got a burden. You have to prove your case. I mean, if it's true and you have elements of drugging and blackmailing, this and that, it would be a big shock. You would have some things, especially the suspicious nature of him walking along that highway to begin with, would be put into place. But I'm more curious to see how this is going to be substantiated and how it develops. I'm shocked. I'm prepared to be shocked even more.
Mhm. And with that being said, so the lawsuit is going up against a bar, a nightclub, an upscale driving range, and a hotel. And so for me to for her to be putting them in there, a little crazy, and to the point of that he was drugged and robbed and extorted before he ran out of gas. I just can't. And they did say that they did find some traces of things that anesthesiologists use to knock them out. But on the other hand, you've got your blood alcohol level at, they had two different tests, one at zero point 0.2, the other at 0.24, almost three times the legal limit in the state of Florida, as in what would be in Washington at zero point 0.8, but or zero point 0.08, excuse me. So I I'm a little I'm a little concerned that maybe she's trying to go a little bit different way to try to compensate for him not making money. That might be the wrong way to think about it, but I've
Uh,
seen
you,
her trying to get money out of it.
but you have had situations in where that's in some ways deplorable. It's entirely valid when you're losing someone with that level of a breadwinner. I get it, but you're leaving yourself with a lot of dots to connect. And I get the fact that wanting to keep him out there, seeing what was going on, making sure you have different narratives to where not everything is negative from strictly his point of view. But especially nowadays, when you have a lot of media that's going to jump on this and scrutinize, at a minimum, take a lot of caution. Don't start throwing out all of these puzzles when you can't put them together yourself. So I'm willing to give some benefit of the doubt, let this process go through, but either way, it's this is going to be a huge deal and she was right, or a kind of a sad last twist to this tale that was in some ways already sad enough. And I don't think I or really anyone else would want to see that.
Right. And it's going to be an interesting case to because I guess she is asking for a jury trial for all of this. So we'll keep an eye on it over the next time. A couple rapid fires here with some signings and injuries. First, just tell me what you think. Linebacker Devin White wants out of Tampa Bay. Are you shocked?
No, I mean, the whole thing was they kept the band together after winning a Super Bowl, tried to make another run. We saw how that worked. It's like, all right, I've done what I can do here. Let me go on a contender, get my bag, what have you. No surprise. Good luck, Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Devin White getting ready to finish out his fifth year on his rookie deal. So that deal worth about $11.5 million in this option deal. We'll see. Tampa says he don't want to get rid of him, but who knows what happens there. Buffalo Bills re-sign Shaq Lawson to just a 1 year deal. A little shocked it was only a 1 year deal. I would have figured they went multi-year on that.
I'm thinking they're kind of taking a wait and see approach. They know they've got a lot of rebuilding to do themselves, and after continually falling short of a lot of expectations, so it's like they're really playing it careful. I'm a little bit surprised, but I think this is another wait and see situation. If the team as a whole, the defense and everything gets together and finally takes that step, I think he'll be able to play into a long-term deal.
Also, Detroit trading away cornerback Jeff Okuda to Atlanta for a fifth rounder. 3 years ago, he was the number 3 pick, and Detroit's already moving away from him.
I don't get it. I mean, I know Dan Campbell, big on defense and everything, but for a team that made so many strides in trying to keep top level players, which I still considered him as one of, in that defensive backfield for Detroit, I'm It's another one of those where I don't trust the front office. Just when I thought they were getting things right, they go ahead and pull a Detroit move.
Yeah, they do. Big injury, and I think I'm going to ask you: does this make Deshaun Watson's target a little smaller? As Michael Woods tore his Achilles, is likely to miss the entire 2023 season. Is this a good thing for Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns?
I'm not sure because I would want to definitely say there could be benefits from Cleveland. I'm still reminded, oh yeah, it's the Cleveland Browns. Somehow, some way, you can set your watch to it. Something for them is going to go wrong with this. It's a question of just how wrong.
And we've seen things. Last one, and we'll get into Major League Baseball, but last one, we've seen the changes happening. We've seen it happening with Amazon. YouTube TV has now set the price for NFL Sunday ticket subscriptions. They announced that today. If you're a non-subscriber, and buy things now, $349 for the year for or for the Sunday ticket. If you don't get in time, it's $449 for your YouTube TV. Is it now just who's going to make more money at all this between everybody?
Pretty much. I mean, we've seen now it's not a matter of cable or big cable companies. This is the main frontier battle for your streaming networks. We've seen everything with Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball with Apple TV. Now, with Amazon getting their exclusive NFL games on Thursday Night Football, potentially getting a Thursday Night Football flex with Prime Video, YouTube TV is like, we have the power of Alphabet. Let us show you who's boss. Shockingly, mostly reasonable prices if you can break it down like a bye week throughout the course of the season. You're really only paying about 20, 25 some odd dollars. If you look at it that way, it's easier to stomach. And I really think if more people continue to cut the cord and go towards YouTube TV because of this, they'll give a little bit of a tweak going forward. It won't go down a lot, but get this as the entry level and they'll say, all right, we can break even and give customers a little bit of a break, say the next season or two. At least one would hope.
And that price does not include Red Zone. Red Zone's an additional $40 for the season. So lots of things with NFL, what they're going to be doing with that money-wise. Listen, next week, we'll talk about our NFL draft guys. Who do we like coming out? It will be interesting to see those who is going to be the number one pick. We'll get our opinions on that here with that. So that's going to wrap up the NFL part. We're going to turn our attention now to a little MLB as lots of things going on with things this season. Let's do the scoreboard first, and then from the scoreboard, we'll go into major headlines. Right now, the Orioles have made their way back and have taken the lead 12-7 over the Athletics. That is in the top of the ninth. So the Orioles looking to move to 6-5 on the season. And just now going final, the Miami Marlins win against the Philadelphia Phillies 8-4. Philadelphia really struggling right now and things going on. The Blue Jays lead the Tigers 4-3, top of the eighth. The Padres lead the struggling Mets 4-1, top of nine. The Cincinnati Reds are trailing the Atlanta Braves, who have finally got out of their slump over the last couple of games. Braves lead 7-6. White Sox and Twins all knotted up at 3 apiece. Things in the Windy City has gotten crazy. Chicago Cubs took the lead over my Seattle Mariners hit a grand slam a few minutes ago, and the Cubs just now extended their lead to now 10-8. That one's just in the bottom of the fifth. You look at Texas leading Kansas City 3-2. Today, also Pittsburgh Pirates walked it off with a grand slam, winning that one 7-4. The Pirates 7-4 on the season. Go figure with that one. But we say it's still early. I'm a little shout out to Randy. His New York Yankees knock off the Guardians 11-2, and in action just underway, top of the first. No score with the Nationals Angels, the Brewers Diamondbacks, and then the Dodgers and Giants will throw first pitch here in about 5 minutes. So any of those? Oh, yeah. How about let's talk about your Rays. Let's get into your Tampa Bay Rays. Come away with another huge win tonight, 7-2 in that one. Just the offense alone has been looking quite well. McClanahan picks up his third win of this short season. Third win, 5 innings pitched, gives up, strikes out 9, only 1 ERA, had 4 walks, but a couple of big hits in this one for the Diaz has a home run in that one, and also Lau has a home run. Talk about it. Tell me about your Rays.
I'm telling you, you can really look at both sides of the coin with this. You can already say yes. With Lowe and Lau and everybody hitting, we've already got 29 home runs this season. You can talk about going in with the best run differential, even going into tonight. Best run differential this early in the season since 1893, coming one short of the all-time streak of consecutive 4-run wins. We've got hitting, we've got power, we've got the benefit of the trop, I will say. Still a little bit of, even though, yeah, it's still sketchy, so a little home cooking. But then, for all the talk of the offense, you look at our pitching. As a whole staff, we're sub 2. We're at about 1.8 best in baseball. You have your relievers, second best in all of baseball. Starters, best in baseball. This is one of those times where we're all dealing, and I even said last week, yes, we had a very friendly schedule. Yes, I would like us to see this going end up being after 20 games at least 15-5, although now that would be disappointing. If we can keep this rolling past really to Cinco de Mayo, that 100-win season that I casually threw out there may be a little bit of reality. I want to see how long we go, especially if we break the record. Keep it rolling. How long before we lose? Oh, this is so magical.
So you hit on a couple of good things. Let's start first with the pitching, and we'll talk a little bit with today's game. McClanahan now gets over 17 innings pitched. You're getting some length in pitching with the Jeffrey Springs 13 runs. Innings pitched. Rasmussen 13 innings pitched, and Effen also 11 innings pitched. You're getting some depth out of these starters.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that's really been underrated about us. Going back to like the last years of Joe Madden, bringing up the opener, leaning towards long relievers. Kevin Cash has brought in with his pitching coaches saying, hey, we're going to go ahead and what was old is new again, throwing back to having a strong 5-man rotation, quality start after quality start after quality start, or very close to it. That way, we can keep our bullpen fresh and rotated. And so far, that is paying tremendous dividends. And I'm here for it. Could this be one of those seasons to where we're one of those very fortunate teams to have such a great rotation that stays healthy, continues, sprinkle in one, maybe two 20-game winners, that would be fantastic. Especially when you get into the dog days, as we're definitely going to get into with this still somewhat stiff competition that is the AL East. But everything is convalescing. And you know what happens in Tampa Bay when everything convalesces. And no, I'm not talking about the sargassum washing up on the beaches either.
And so you make this a great point too. You're keeping the bullpen fresh. You look at innings pitched with all of these guys. As much as they've been doing, they've been keeping things quite balanced. You
Mm-hmm.
look at the wins coming out. Only two relievers have wins out of your ball club. And sir, can you tell me how many saves you have on the season?
Maybe one?
Just one, and that
Yeah.
was Pete Fairbanks, and he only has so that I mean that's saying a lot. You hit on it 4 runs per game right now. They've only had one save opportunity, so and those you guys know, one save opportunity means it's 3 runs or less in
Mm-hmm.
the 8th inning or 9th inning. So the staff is looking quite well. You also mentioned a couple other things. Let's turn it now towards the bats that are coming from Tampa Bay. You said 58 run differential between win loss. You know who is second right now in the MLB in run differential?
Oh, I gotta think on this one.
I did this one last night when I was doing my notes because I knew I wanted to talk about this. As run differential is huge.
Would it be someone like Atlanta?
It is not Atlanta. Actually, the LA Dodgers right now is plus 24. Milwaukee is plus 22. And Texas is plus 20 right now. Yes, we're only 10, 11, 12 games into the season. That number will change so, just a bunch, but it is crazy. Now, take a look at which was funny tonight. How about the other end of that spectrum? The worst run differential is right now is Oakland at 49, but the way they played today against Baltimore, it looked like they were trying to compete. And then you got Detroit at minus 35, Miami at minus 31, and Kansas City at minus 20.
I mean, to be fair, especially Oakland and Detroit, a lot of that thanks to us. Don't worry, you won't see us too more often, so you'll balance that out. But
You did hit on it. Tampa Bay is on such a crazy run right now. They are the ninth team to in all of baseball. How about we do say it correctly? Seventh team of the modern day era baseball. That is 1900 and now. Just the 17th to go 10-0. You rattled off a couple of them. The 1987 Milwaukee Brewers. They ended up 13-0 before they lost their first one. The 82 Braves. They started also 13-0. But some big ones. And this was why I did this. I'm going to throw a trivia question to you. So hopefully you have the answer. Out
okay.
of and I will back off the two that are way obscure before 1900. So in the modern era, there is
Mm-hmm.
7 teams that are 10-0 to start or better to start the season. Do you know which team ended up out of those, or let me rephrase this. What
Yeah.
team, how did they finish? Who had the best season and finish out of all of those teams, out of those 7 teams? Do you know? So, do I need to give you the teams, the rest of the teams?
I'm going to take a stab at it because I know
Okay.
there were a lot of successful teams mentioned in that because they mentioned under Billy Martin, the 81 A's during that strike shortened
Mhm.
season.
They went 64-54 and was first in the AL West, but lost to the Yankees in the ALCS.
If I had to take a guess, knowing teams with incredibly hot starts, especially that were prolonged, the 84 Detroit Tigers?
Nope, the 84. So the ones that are in the modern era, we did say the Milwaukee Brewers, we did say the Braves.
Mm-hmm.
You did mention the Oakland A's. The next up is the 66 Indians. Then you have the 62 Pirates, the 55 Brooklyn Dodgers, and then you have two ones that go farther, but do you know which one did the best after their great start?
I would have to say those 55 Dodgers.
The 55 Dodgers ended up 98 and 55 on the season. First in the NL. That's when they played for the National League, and
Mm-hmm.
they ended up winning over who? Do you know who they won in the World Series in 55?
Their crosstown rivals, and Billy Martin was on that team, Randy Isbell's New York Yankees.
That is exactly correct. I loved looking at some of that stuff last night because it was like, okay, you've got 7 great teams
Mm-hmm.
that played well. I mean, you look at the Braves, yes, they lost in the NLCS to St. Louis, but some of these teams, like the 66 Indians, finished 5th in the AL. So get off to a hot start, then all of a sudden, I hit a wall. There we go. We're down for the count.
Exactly. And you have some of those teams, especially, I give a lot more credit to those teams in the 80s in particular, because while you had your top heavy teams in the 60s, you had, still had some teams like your Amazons, Boston, and that whole huge race with the AL pennant in 67. In the 70s and 80s, baseball was still very top heavy. So if you got that hot start and carried that to any sort of postseason momentum, you really had to be commended. And especially in the case of Milwaukee, another team in a dome losing to Minnesota in that 87 ALCS, which that was kind of a shock in of itself.
100%. So let's really, to wrap up the first, what are we, 12, 13 games in for the most part. Everybody is right around 500, maybe one game better, maybe
Mm-hmm.
one game worse. It looks like everybody's bunched up except for Tampa Bay. So really, nobody has taken that stride anywhere that's pushed ahead of anybody else other than Tampa Bay leading well away. So I this is why we play the game. This is
Mm-hmm.
why we play so many games. I'm not a huge fan of 162. I can see it going back down to how many games they played in 55 when they were only right about 150 games. But, I love the idea of things balancing out. And then now it's more of a balanced schedule, and you see only certain people a few times a year. So, uh,
Absolutely. And I think they did it right with still the emphasis on the division rivalries, the major rivalries. And like the old saying goes for batters and statistics, if you don't have an RBI by Cinco de Mayo, you know you're struggling. I think once you get past Easter, going towards Cinco de Mayo, going into May, that's when you're really going to start teams. They'll have couple dozen games under their belt, establish their identity, and you could see the beginnings of those either pulling away or coming back to the pack.
And Randy and I have talked about it. I think the date is Memorial Day weekend.
Absolutely.
That is the set date. Once we see Memorial Day hit, that's when we see the contenders
Yep.
and the pretenders of where things would happen. Who would have figured? Like I said, Pittsburgh walked it off today. They're now 7-4 on the season, so it's crazy. And they are now doing this without O'Neal Cruz, who will miss 4 months with the collision and ended up breaking his tibia.
I saw that and it was incredibly tragic because I'm thinking to myself, Pittsburgh is revitalized. You've got the magic of Kutch. He's back home. You've got a good start. You're at least in a reasonable position to be wild card contenders, and then this happens. Now you're really going to see where the magic goes these next couple of months. Are they going to say, hey, We know we're going to have him back towards the stretch run. Let's go ahead and at least give him something to fight for. Or do we say, oh, well, another lost season, pack it in? And I really hope that they don't. I hope that they don't.
Randy and I talked about Cruz a lot last year with his name. I think he's more than a capable athlete and is that future for the Pittsburgh infield and everything. A couple other names let's throw out there. Tim Anderson got hurt on Saturday excuse me, Sunday. Gets rolled up on. He is going to hit the probably the IL for probably on the 15-day IL.
Yeah, from what I saw, it was the 15-day IL. Yeah.
So he's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks with the knee sprain. Joe Kelly also hits the IL from the White Sox with a groin pull. Adam Duvall gets hurt diving for a ball in Boston, hurts his wrist. He has hit the 10-day IL, and we have not seen him yet this year. He was in the minors, but right-handed pitcher Ian Anderson of the Braves is scheduled now to have Tommy John surgery. So we will not see Anderson with the Braves this year.
Yeah, and if you think with like the big names that we've seen go down temporarily, in a weird way, you would want to say that, okay, better to happen earlier in the season, but you hope they don't become lingering. And then, as I believe I've heard with Bryce Harper finally starting to get cleared to be able to hit in games, maybe he could be that boost back to Philadelphia's lineup. So a little bit earlier than I would like to see for some of these key injuries and dealing with this. But again, nature of the beast, and you would hope get your early knocks out of the way. That way, once you get to May, June, July, you'll have so much better stretches.
All right, so let's jump into a few of them. Let's jump into your standout batter this past week. Did you have some guy that one of the your players that stood out to you this past week?
Believe it or not, with the glory that was Wander Franco and everything my Rays have done, I looked at this, especially after a high-scoring extra innings thriller. Hunter Renfroe, have yourself a week. I mean, yes, the team results didn't necessarily pan out, but just in the past 7 days, 9 of 22, 3 home runs, a homer in 3 straight games. 2 against Toronto back-to-back, and then the 6-4 loss against the Nationals. That consistent home run streak, it's like, all right. It's another one of those to say, hey, look out. See how long that carries.
Yeah, it's going to be a great season. Some of the guys are a little slow kicking things off, but I'm going to take Matt Chapman, the third baseman for Toronto. Finally starting to get hot. Toronto picked up a couple of big wins this past week. Chapman goes 11 of 25, 3 doubles, 2 home runs, 12. Count them, 12 RBIs. If I had an extra phalange on both ends of my hands, I mean,
I'll put up the extra 2 for you.
12 RBIs for Toronto, who has started off a little slow, but they are making their way in a very competitive AL division there. So, how about a pitcher that stood out to you this week?
This one, in my ode to my W2M and not a network ways, go big or go homer. I am going homer with this one. Drew Rasmussen. We've again went in depth about our rotation. Now 2-0 on the season. 2 shutout starts. No runs through 13 innings, including a 7-inning 1-hit gem. And about this, his whip 0.23. Good luck trying to get on base against that guy.
Yeah, you make a good point. The guy I pulled up had a whip of 0.33, so I'm close, But I'm actually gonna go with a reliever. I'm gonna go with Clay Holmes, the reliever for the Yankees. 3 innings pitched, three saves on 3 opportunities, only 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, no hits, and like I said, a WHIP of 0.33. So a couple of great names there for standout players. We'll do it every week. We do a standout batter, standout player. With that being said, I'm going to throw you this one. Give me your top 5 power rankings for Major League Baseball.
Well, Randy, I know you're not here. I'm glad that you're not here because I'm going to have to do this. Yes, before anybody says anything, we did have a soft schedule, but as the saying always goes, you can only play who's in front of you. You can only beat who's in front of you. Someone out there in the comments, tell me why. I've got my table in front of me. I'm sipping my coffee. The Rays are number 1. Change my mind. Now, from there, I am going to give the Yankees a little bit of love. They've got their collective going there. I'm putting them at number 2. Yes, Randy, you're welcome again. And the Braves, another solid team, another hot start, even with the whole Travis d'Arnaud injury. I still have them at 3rd. Really, at 4th, this was tough because for as much as it had previous players from the U coming out and the return of Christian Yelich, you can keep it going, Milwaukee. I'm right there with you. So I put them at 4. And at 5, this was a hard one. I'm going to give a slight nod to the Padres because they're finally showing, okay, they could be setting up to do what they finally couldn't and claim their place at the top of the NL West. Keep this going and we'll see.
So you and I did not talk anything about our power rankings. 0 power rankings, correct? Okay, so with that being said, I want you to see this. I'm going to throw this up here for you.
You come on!
You picked exactly what I had, to a T, exactly what I had. And I typed yours in as we were going down. And I'm like, he's doing the exact same. And oh my God, Christian Yelich, you did.
Eric, I didn't read the notes.
You have no option. Yeah.
Nope.
How does that happen? You had the exact same power rankings as I did. That is just crazy.
I mean, again, as they say, great minds think alike.
As much as the flip-flop, and let's go back to that. As much as the flip-flop that happens over until basically Memorial Day, you can see the shakeup. Now, I haven't been on Atlanta. I know Atlanta. I'm not on their bandwagon right now, but I know they're going to get better in the next little bit. But you said the key thing. Until you beat my team, you're going to be there. And right now, they are the number 1 team, and that's Tampa Bay. The Yankees. I picked 2 Yankees the last 2 weeks. For pitchers, I took Garrett Cole last week. I'm taking Clay Holmes this week. So again, prove me wrong until you get there. San Diego just barely edges out. But you look at some of the other ones, some big fallers. Houston falls way out. I had Houston up their ways. Seattle's starting to make their way up. Some of the other ones, but like I said, a lot of these teams are all 5-5, 6-4, 4-6, 7-4. It's going to be a drag zone.
Yeah, everybody is still in this feeling out process, and with everybody talking about the new rules, the increase in stolen bases, the batting average, you've got some teams like Tampa Bay, like the Yankees, and those who are adjusting to this a lot easier. But this is still brand new for all 30 clubs. And I think this first month of the season, as you put it, once you get Memorial Day, once everybody's figured that out, they're going to start figuring out themselves, and you'll see which teams are really legit and which ones aren't. But really, first 2 weeks of the season, mwah.
Yeah, and it's just going to get better from there. So I love having baseball back. It is exciting. Second full weekend swing now. Let's do one more story in the baseball realm, and you hit on it in our opener. Some crazy things happened at MLB in the minor leagues. Last Saturday, the Rocket City Trash Pandas threw a no-hitter and lost 7-5 to the Chattanooga Lookouts. What did you get to see any of this game or hear any of the story?
I didn't get to see the game, but they broke it down like batter by batter as it happened. And I'm seeing, okay, walk, hit by pitch, walk, sacrifices. And I'm like, what is going on with this bullpen? Why is it so I keep seeing all these green dots with runners on base? Why could they not figure that out? And it's like, good thing it was only 7 innings. Bad that collapse happened entirely in the 7th. And ouch. The longer I went down, the worse I felt for them.
So I brought this up and I looked at the box score and I did the exact same thing as what they did. I mean, no hits out of all of them. But then you start looking at the walks for here, Marte with 1, Hines 1, Serta with 2, and it just got crazier. So you bring up, like you said, how the implosion happened in the top of the 7th. Pitching change, walk, infield fly rule. And then all of a sudden, it was like the wheels fell off. Mm-hmm. But for Chattanooga to basically score 7 runs in the top of the 7th and end up winning this 7-5, it just, will we ever see a game like this again where it's a no-hitter and lose?
I really don't think so, because maybe if it's like a 1-0 situation, which has happened in the majors before, some kind of freakish bloops, a couple of walks, and a big jam like that. But I don't think we'll see that for a while. Now, on the other side of the coin, and I brought this up, I don't think I had the chance to share this with you. Does the name Brady Ware ring any sort of bells?
Not offhand.
Okay, little bit about him. Fantastic season for the University of Indianapolis. Came in for the second game again in a doubleheader against Drury University. He was at home. Not only was he dealing, he's like, okay, I'm going to go and show my stuff. Great ERA through 16 innings pitched. I'm going to throw a no-hitter. Yes, 7 innings, but still a no-hitter. But wait, he's like, I'm not done. I'm going to do something else at the plate. I'm up there, full Shohei Ohtani fashion. I'm going to top my no-hitter by hitting for the cycle in the exact same game. If you get a chance to see the highlights of this, it's like the man you question whether he's human. And yes, it was a blowout, like 14-0, if I was around or thereabouts. But to be able to throw a no-hitter and hit for the cycle almost naturally in reverse in the same game, impressive on so many levels.
Oh, he is a talent of a whole different realm, and so can't. This is why baseball is so. You get one of those. We thought generational players every year.
Mm-hmm.
We get the few guys of George Brett then your next guy comes up and you see Pete Rose, and it just who is that one of every generation that comes up, and he's just that one. So I'm
Yeah.
looking so excited for that. You are listening and watching the R&R Sports Report here on Facebook Live, Facebook, and also on our YouTube channel. So make sure you go and like both of those. Boy, where do we want to go? I kind of wanting to hold off on our draft because Randy is
Sure.
close to being done. So let's jump into a couple of Lewis Clark State notes really quick, and then we will do our golf because listen, you and I are both big golf fans, so we'll do that. First off, in LC sports stuff going on, retired coach Brian Orr comes away with the North Idaho Athletic Hall of Fame Coach of the Year. So congratulations, Coach Orr retires, so he's going out with a bang. Gotta love it. Warrior baseball team ends up getting a split this week over College of Idaho. It's the split this one. The bats finally start coming back a little bit. They do generate a few more hits. They lose the first game 3-2 in 10 innings. Saturday in game one, they end up 8-inning, 10-run rule, 14-4, and then lose the second game 9-5, but then come away with a win on Sunday of 11-6. So it's good to see LC making those strides to get a little bit better. They are on the road this week as they travel down to La Grande, just a couple hours from us here, about 4 hours from us, to take on Eastern Oregon University. As Eastern Oregon University is 0-12 in conference play, should be able to handle business. Here's a good one for you, and I know it's tough for you to follow LC baseball, but LC had a home match with these guys back on March 4th and 5th.
Okay.
LC outscored Eastern Oregon University 46-8 in 4 games. So should be a good game. Hopefully to get those 4 wins because right now the Warriors need that as they are currently sitting 5th in the Cascade Conference. So we need a big push for them. Golf going to get ready to start things up here in about a week and a half with Cascade Conference play. There's no tournaments going on until championship. That's going to be at Cresswell, Oregon, April 24th through the 26th. 5 Warriors are in the top 100 nationally ranked in NAIA. So 5 of them in there. Jorgen Levinkin, he's sitting at 13th. At 40th is Juan Pablo Kisoboni, Bryden Brown, and the local boy Devin Caruso sitting at 54th. And then for the women, Alexandra Schmidt is sitting at 89th. So lots of folks there in golf. Track and field will be up in Spokane on Saturday. And they will be on Thursday, taking and doing the Whitworth Twilight. On Saturday, the Warrior women's tennis team takes on Weber State, and then the men take on Puget Sound. So lots going on this weekend, sports. So make sure you are listening for that. So, all right, dude, let's talk about it. We're going to talk a little Masters. It is my favorite time of the year. I love the Masters. I love what happens in that. God, where do you want to start? Let's talk about the 88 players that were invited. And remember, the Masters is an invite tournament. Out of the 88, 18 of which come from the LIV Tour. Were you shocked with the numbers of invites from LIV?
I was not. And for all the time in the lead up of the Masters, Augusta National, everyone said, hey, we're a major, you're us. We're not going to necessarily play into the LIV versus PGA situation. If you qualify, you meet the criteria, we'll invite you, you come get your chance. And I applaud Augusta in particular for saying, hey, we not so much that we're bigger than this, but this is the Masters. We'll let the networks and broadcast teams decide what they do. I will admit, Jim Nance did get a sneaky little quip in there with Brooks Koepka that I did find hilarious. I got to give him his due on that. But overall, I'm not shocked at the number for now. And I hope certain things get resolved between now and next year, where that number at least comes close to being the same. Because from what I've seen, the number's going to get significantly lower. And for the top end, proving what they did, it's going to be a bit of a shame.
Yeah, especially let's talk about it. And it wasn't really the elephant in the room because he played quite well. Came off a win on the Live Tour. Brooks Koepka was the 54-hole lead going into Sunday morning as they had to go back out on the Sunday morning to finish up round 3. Was leading, comes out with that lead, and in the Sunday round, the round 4, he is not doing well at all. 5 bogeys in the first, I want to say 10 holes, and just drops like a rocket. And who's there but John Rahm, who he had a rough start starting this tournament. He 4 putts the very first hole on Thursday and is already down, is 2 over, to start the tournament on the first hole. John Rahm is able to keep plugging away, comes away shooting 12 under for the tournament and wins by 4 strokes.
Yeah, and with this, and we'll be able to get into it more, you could tell really as the course changed with the weather, with the rain, playing was significantly slower, not quite a lot of speed on the greens. The second cut a little bit trickier. You needed to nail your fairways, everything. And that's where Koepka really struggled because if you see a lot of the courses like Mayakoba, like Orlando, where Koepka thrived and succeeded, fast course, fast course. That played into his style perfectly. That's how he was able to get the lead. But finally, the more continued of a grind, the stopping, it played right into Jon Rahm's hands. Fair play to him. He took incredible advantage, and it was a very well-earned win.
Yeah, well deserved what he did. With that being said, Koepka did play quite well in the tournament, 100%. Hats off. I enjoy watching him. He's been dealing with the leg injury, and he looked like he was playing to a level of where he was wanting to be when he was on the PGA Tour, and I think that stood out. But you have to compete and you have to play well, and if you did not play well, like he did not, the second, even the end of the third round, you see his scores and what he did. He just kind of looked out of sorts, like you were saying. But Sunday afternoon was the best day of golf that whole course had, which leads me to a little bit of a comment of, was it that he just played better in worse weather, or is everybody else that good with good weather and was able to keep the pressure on?
I think you had a lot of people just come up with the good weather, yes, kind of keep him on his toes. But again, you really saw who's got that experience when conditions are really the worst. Because it's not just your wind, your rain, your chilling temperatures. You have that level of endurance where you're not just playing your 18, you're coming out playing, 22, 25 holes. And that requires that little bit of extra grit, that little bit of extra toughness that some of those golfers had. And I give credit to them. And then on the other side of the coin, like you had Kepka start great and struggle, it was almost as if Phil Mickelson, another live golfer, captain of the High Flyers, turned back the clock. And it's like, okay, hey, for all the talk at the dinner, granted, I would have loved to have tried Scotty Scheffler that tortilla soup because I'm all about tortilla soup. Get the spicier, the better. But you come out and say, hey, I shoot a career low. This is where I want to be, and it's not a fluke. And it's like, well, to me, it's a little bit more of a victory as well in saying, yeah, it's not just a retirement tour and chasing all that money. Some of these guys still have it. Just saying.
Yeah, and he showed that he still had it. He was quite well versed into what he was doing there. So I think it is a unbelievable thing for Phil Mickelson. Like you said, live guys did do quite well over those the 4-day tournament. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Not to take any way away from the PGA thing either, but also how about the 7 amateurs that played? Yes, 6 of them did not make the cut, but your low amateur, um, Mr. Bennett, was in contention through on Sunday, or well, I say Sunday because they did finish the round Sunday, but he was in contention there going in. He kind of got a little rough start in the morning, but ends up still 2 under, I think, for the tournament, and he was still in contention there. So, are we looking at another great young talent coming out of college that's going to make a difference? He can hit the ball a long ways.
He really can. And you're seeing a lot more of this in college golf in general. And he really is one of those in that next wave. And I think eventually, whatever tour that he decides to choose, he could be another one of those up and coming and eventually star levels of talent. And I'm loving it. I'm here for it. Would love to see him make that progression eventually as he goes pro.
So we just said a little bit of youth. You made the comment a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of the elderness. Let's talk a little bit of youth. A big name um, withdraws just prior to the start. And then we find out and hear a huge thing with this. Will Zalatoris, 26 years old, has a successful procedure done on Saturday, working on his back, a microdiscectomy. He said he's already feeling better, but with that surgery, he's going to miss the entire 2023 season.
And it's a real shame for someone really starting to step into the beginning of his prime, has this promise, already has shown and put himself out there for what he can do on the course. It's bad in a lot of sense of timing, but you at least know, hey, I can come back, and he can definitely come back, heal, and be ready to go potentially all out in 2024. And I hope, because with these particular injuries, like your back, we have seen this happen a few times. They're no joke. And you have to treat it just right throughout the whole process in the beginning of coming back. Otherwise, you may never quite be the same again. I hope in Will's case that he comes back, stays on that level, and can return to that because, again, another one of those big name in their 20s, and that seems to be a continuing thing of Masters winning players in your 20s, in your prime, to go ahead and get at least one or two more shots the next couple of years.
And you lead into it, and you said it quite well. The injury bug, and that being said, you never know where you're going to be once you have an injury. Even as a bowler, Randy and I have talked about those kind of injuries, but we say this. And he asked me when we were doing our picks last week of who we were going to take. We'll chime in on that. I know Harry was going to take Rory McIlroy. I ended up taking Scotty Scheffler, who finishes 10th. But going into it, he made the comment of, "Oh, it's inviting Tiger Woods was a 65-1 favorite to win the tournament. And I told him no. I said, I don't even know if he finishes, which great. Commend him on 23 straight Masters cuts made, but he does not make it back out to finish his third round and withdraws due to a foot injury, is what he's saying. I mean this in all things. I think that Tiger Woods is probably the best golfer we have ever seen ever play the game. Was this the last tournament we see him on the PGA Tour where he is not 100% in being able to even finish the tournament?
Oh, I've been thinking about this a lot, and even in seeing in his schedule how he's going to play the majors and then one or two selected events. And I think with all of his litany of injuries, that's a great idea. And I went in depth with my mom, who long time in the nursing field. We had a great conversation about some things, and she even, I'm hoping I can get a prototype as I look towards the room at her, at least a drawing of what you mentioned, that what Tiger could wear at least for this next year or so, because with those conditions, and we talked about the weather and the course, when you have the kind of injuries that he has, your foot, your leg, knee, back, arthritis, all kinds of surgeries, all sorts of literal hardware in there, when you get those severe cold drops and all of that rain, you feel that in your joints and stuff so much more. And I even read an article about, for his caddy said, yes, if he has to go more than 18 holes or 27 holes in a day, he's done. That's a nightmare, especially having to walk a much longer Augusta National. So I want to see him come back. I want to see him at least have one or two good more years at full strength. I don't want it to end like this for him. And I'm personally hope it doesn't. And with that competitive fire the Tiger still has, I don't think it will.
And you say it 100%. Augusta National is known for being a very long course. It is par 72, very long course. But you look at I think this year with having their cameras the way they did, there was a little bit more drone action. You could see the rolls of Augusta Nationals. You could see, you look at some of the holes, the ups and downs at Augusta is very treacherous. And I think it just took a toll on. Weather was not the best. 46 degrees, 46 degrees at 46 degrees at Sunday morning to start, and then the wind blowing on it. These guys, they even made the comment that Victor Hovland, it was warmer in Norway, where Victor Hovland is from, than it was at Augusta National. So I think maybe the warmer weathers, can't wait to see him at the Open across the pond. He always plays harder over there. But I think we're to that point in his career that unfortunately an accident has taken that away from him. I think we are in the final stages of seeing him. I love watching him play with Charlie, his son, and the charity things. I think that's great. But like you said, it's minimal amounts of rounds. It's minimal
absolutely.
amount of rocking. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and where these guys come out here in the next next bit over the next few months, even a few weeks. As PGA, we're in the big swing now that it is all about these guys. So the next tournament will be this week. It is the RBC Heritage in Hilton Head. How far is Hilton Head from you? I mean, it's about 7 hours, 6 hours?
Thereabouts, because going right across the border to Georgia, through Georgia, going to South Carolina. So, yeah, you're looking at about maybe 6 on a good day, but typically about 7 hour drive.
Yeah, so it'll be it will be interesting with that. Tees kick off quite early for us, where it's we're on the West Coast. Our local boy Joel Damon is scheduled to play in the event. He will have an early tee time. It will be 7:33 your time, sir, or for us over on the West Coast, 4:33 in the morning. Joel Damon is scheduled to tee off, and I believe he is scheduled to play with Tyrell Hatton and Lanto Griffin. So that'll be a good matchup with those guys. Tyrell, I love watching Hatton play and swing the ball, swing the club. I think he's going to be a great player come down the road. All right, dude. I'm gonna leave it to you. Do you want to go draft or do we want to go a little AFL?
We gotta, especially since I can give Randy one more little bit of a break. We gotta go Aussie rules because again, a lot of craziness happened, and one of our teams could be in contention for the wooden spoon. Not gonna say who. You can look at the table and see for yourself.
So if you have not been following, and this year, give me your input on that. This year, it looks like FS Fox Sports have been playing a few more extra games. They had 4 games this past week, and they've got a few more coming up this week.
I am so thankful because it's always the first 3-4 weeks of the season. It seems to be like a bit of a back burner situation for the AFL and FS1 and FS2 to get their rights sorted. I think they looked at the numbers, looked at their content, and say, hey, we know rugby league coverage does well, our rugby union coverage does well, but we have a fan base that hankers and dedicates to footy. Let's get this done. We've got more access to Fox Sports. We've got more access to Channel 7. Let's use it. And, such a relief. And they wind up picking a lot of the better games. I'm still working my way through that fantastic. And yes, I have been spoiled, but I'm still watching it anyway. Sydney Port Adelaide game. I got to see my dogs already. It's a very good spread that they have available. Highly encourage anybody to tune in.
Well, yeah, and that's the big thing is there are going to be more games coming. I think it is just awesome with what they are doing. So, talking a little bit, your Western Bulldogs ended up knocking off Richmond 89-84. It was a close game.
We started off house on fire. Our transition game was working better. We were getting clearances. We were able to move forward. It was a breeze. But Richmond, as they are this modern dynasty, they kept clawing back, gave us a little bit more trouble in the midfield, had guys like Tim English and Bont working harder, took advantage of some key areas, but we're still dealing with some lingering injuries. But the one thing that we did in the end, we reestablished our ability to close. And again, looking at what we lost with our tumultuous offseason, the injuries we have, we've got Cody Waitman coming back, who's going to be a lightning rod up forward as well. At 2-2 with a chance to go 3-2 after 5 rounds, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's we were talking last week. All 3 of our teams were 16, 17, 18, not the starts that we were looking for. But we'll get to where your team is in the ladder here in just a second. For as far as branding our game, it was an Easter night game for us. I actually stayed up and watched it. First kick at I want to say it was 10:20 Pacific time on Easter Sunday in the evening, so I was able to sit and watch that game. Hard to watch being down. It was a tough first half for Geelong. I don't know what coach said to them in the second half, but they come out like a house of fire. They trailed 36-27 at halftime, and Hawthorn Hawthorne comes out and they score the first 3 goals within just minutes. And I'm already texting Randy. I'm like, oh, unbelievable. This is crazy. And then all of a sudden, third quarter starts, and the Cats score 10 goals and 5 behinds in the third quarter. In the third quarter, they put up some crazy numbers. They hold Hawthorne scoreless in the third. And then, with that being said, the Cats scored 16 of 17 goals of the goals scored in the second half. Jeremy Cameron, can you put his name in that list of the best guys to play the game? Jeremy Cameron, 7 goals, 1 behind, 40 accounted for 43 of the 127 points that Geelong put up.
I know it's a midfielder's game when it comes to the umpires and voting for the Brownlow medal, but that has to be a 3-vote performance. Has to be a 3-vote performance. And it's just, this is one of those teams. You have the right coach. You've got the right leadership with guys like Cameron, with guys like Patrick Dangerfield. You heard the noise. Everybody was talking, oh, well, the Cats reigning premiers, 0-3, this and that, worst records. It's like, no, this is still loss. We know what we can still do. And I hope for your sake that this is that lightning rod to carry you through at least the next couple months, especially ahead of Gather Round coming up.
Yeah, 100%. With that being said, let's talk about what things look like in the ladder. We're 4 weeks in, still kind of jumbled mess in the middle, but right now, St. Kilda leading things 4-0, Carleton 3-0-1. Still, they've got to come up with a way to. You play to win the game, not a tie. I'm going to take that quote. I dislike draws.
I'm sorry. Now, for when you get to finals, avoiding replays and doing extra time, I completely agree. But when you're talking a now 23 round in 24 week home and away season, keep the draws. You've got some clubs that have club songs, as we mentioned for the sports related draft. You have some that are dedicated to draws. I'm good with it. It doesn't happen a lot. Take your 2 points and go home.
All right. So with that, St. Kilda in the top, Melbourne sitting at third, Essendon 3-1 at fourth, and Collingwood also 3-1 at fifth. Then you look at your team. Your team took a big jump, moving up 5 spots. Western now sits at 11th with our big win, huge point spread, winning by 82. That bumps Geelong up a big amount from being 18th all the way up to 13th at 1-3. And then Hawthorne falls down and gets down into wooden stick area at 1-3. But anything can happen. We're 4 weeks in. We're paying 23 weeks, 23 weeks, 24 weeks. So plenty of time that something else can happen there.
Exactly. I mean, at this point, as you say, with baseball, you get to Memorial Day. Really, with Aussie rules, once you get into June, going into the Australian spring, that's when you have your contenders and pretenders for the 8 really setting themselves up. And the biggest thing that you did, as you said, percentage. I think with this extra round that's going to be played in Adelaide, with that extra week, we're going to see again, and my team has been a victim of this, we're going to see percentage now more than ever. So if you've got teams to where you can roll over and win big, do it.
Some big games coming up this week. You look at Carleton, they've been playing quite well. They take on Adelaide on Thursday. That one, I don't think I've heard that might be a game that they're last minute putting on. We'll see. Just took a look a few minutes ago. Starting things off for Richmond on Friday morning, Richmond versus Sydney, 6 a.m. your time, 3 a.m. our time. That one's on FS2. Your team is the only one that's going to be on TV this week for all of us, as Your team takes on Port Adelaide on Saturday morning at 2:50 a.m. our time, 5:50 your time on FS2, and the other game is GWS. Oh no, and Randy's team GWS takes on Hawthorne, and that is a Saturday game at 10:20 on FS2 for us in the local. If you're not watching Aussie Rules or looking, man, you got to get in and really pay attention to these. There was some big hits in this one. Couple of injuries. One of the Hawthorne guys took a shot right to the head, and you just watch him cut him open. I still have not heard how many stitches it took to wrap him up.
It's one of those to where you see that happen and then you think, oh, wow, he's done. And then 5 minutes later, huge bandage set up, getting out there and ready to run back out on the ground. And it's like, that's when you know this is legit. Anytime I'm out in my dog's gear, I've also got a beanie as well, which I've been able to wear. It's a little bit cooler. I'm spreading the gospel. It's Aussie Rules. Tune in. You will thank us.
Exactly. Make sure you go and watch it. It is great things to happen. Real quick, well, let's talk a little bit of high school sports. Randy is still over there with the second game going on. I don't know if he's going to make it. Hopefully he does, but we will see. Lewiston baseball comes away with a split this past week against Post Falls. With that one now, Lewiston baseball right now, not counting today's game, 7-5 on the season, 5-3 locally. So they were playing their doubleheader tonight. They end up losing their first game tonight, 8-1, and so right now, Coeur d'Alene is up 4-3, still batting in the fifth. So it'll be crazy to see where they're at. Also, softball was playing. Also playing Coeur d'Alene and Lewiston girls. You get a sweep. They end up winning 6-5 and 8-6 on the softball field. You can. They do have a doubleheader Saturday away at Lake City. That one will kick off at 12 p.m. For Clarkston, Clarkston boys, number one in the state of Washington right now in the 2A division. They are playing lights out baseball. They defeated Grangeville 12-2 on Saturday. Then ended up playing on Friday, and then ended up playing East Valley on Saturday and won 17-3. So the Bantams are just taking care of business right now on the baseball field. They are quite fun to watch. They will be playing tomorrow. They'll be on the road tomorrow in West Valley. So they've got a busy week. They'll be hosting Kellogg on Friday, and then a doubleheader up in Spokane at Rogers on Saturday. Hopefully, Bantams can keep things going through league play here over the next couple of weeks. Softball, the girls' softball has been struggling to get games happening, as they have not played a game in over 12 days. Finally get a game tonight, and they come back. And I was texting Randy in the middle of this. I've had a friend at the game for the Clarkston one. Clarkston trailed by 1 going into the bottom of the 7th, score twice to come away with a 7-6 win to keep the winning streak going for the softball girls. So hats off to those young ladies. Clarkston Track is hosting. That's where I'll be tomorrow. I'll be calling Track Beat as they will host in West Valley. So if you're wanting to watch a little track and field locally, come on over and watch that. So, all right, dude. Well, we're down to like 15 minutes. So let's do it. Let's have some fun. I had some fun with we asked people again, dropped a line of things that we wanted to talk about in the sports related draft. And so with that being said, I went to one and kind of modified somebody that had made a conference. So this week is going to be the best nicknames of any player all time. Could be a golfer, could be a race car driver, could be a horse, could be could be whatever. I got to pick the topic. So, sir, I'm going to let you pick. Take your first pick.
Now, you would not think, but this is a player with some local ties. We know him for some of his exploits. Your Seattle Mariners, Arizona Diamondbacks, New York Yankees. Got his start with the Montreal Expos in '92. Played here in Jacksonville in 1986. Throws the mean left-handed fastball. That's righty. Randy the Big Unit Johnson. Tall, epic mustache, intimidating, accidentally killed a bird once. Yes, it was the anniversary of that not too long ago. But I mean, you just look at him, everything just fit with him. You see a dude like that coming and throwing almost 100 at you, you want to get out of the way.
Yeah, great pick. Big unit, very popular. Got got the play the way he did. Finally got a ring down in Arizona. So, one of my big favorites there. That is a great one. Let's look. Randy just messaged me, said that game has just went final. Lewiston had runners on second and third. 3 straight strikeouts to end the game. Lewiston loses game 2 to Coeur d'Alene 4-3. Tough loss here for those guys. All right, dude. So I'm gonna go with one that another local. We're just gonna say it. And this guy, and can you argue this? Does he have the best left-handed swing of all time?
Oh, I can't think of anybody really better. It just
I'm going with
short, compact, and just that pop. You never knew. Just
I'm going with Kid. I'm going with Ken Griffey Jr. That swing is just lights out. And to watch him swing the bat again at the World Baseball Classic, that was so awesome to see that. I'm going to go with the Kid. I'm going to go with Junior. So that is my second pick. All right, sir. What is your second pick? That was my first pick. So your second pick.
So we had mentioned with this week, we're talking about the Masters. We were talking about the great ones. And you don't often think, too intimidating of guys because of the genteel sort of nature of golf. But when you have a player who year after year, major after major, always one of those guys that doesn't quite look the part, but you get him out there along with everybody else in the field, and hey, you've got to take him down. The Golden Bear. And it's just so fitting. It's just, you don't necessarily think it flows, but then when you see him in action, it's just perfect.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there it is. My computer's lagging a little bit. This was a little bit older Jack Nicklaus, just before he was in the 80s and stuff. So unbelievable what this guy could do. I like that. It's a great thing. But to be called the Golden Bear, I mean, that's just nuts to think about that. For me, and this goes to being just a baseball fan and what he meant to the game, whether or not it was where he played, or was it his offense, was it his defense, what was it about him that made him that guy? And I think for me, it's got to boil down to the record. It has to be. It's got to be the record that makes this guy what he is. It's the Iron Man. It's Cal Ripken Jr. I think this guy is one of the all-time best. Now, he didn't put up the power numbers, but he was known for his glove. He was known for his work ethic. He was known for being that guy that people wanted to be like. So I'm going with the Iron Man, dude. And if I'm wrong, I'm going out swinging on this one.
Now, and I happened to be up in Maryland in high school when he was having his chase for 3,000 hits, and the whole city of Baltimore was just electric, waiting for him. And then his last All-Star game, A-Rod moves over, gives him his rightful spot at third, hits the home run. But not just for the Iron Man, he had a great second nickname too, the Man of 1,000 Stances. I mean,
Yes,
if you look at his career and all the different ways he was up at the plate, so I will give you credit with the good pick on that one.
yeah, it was one. It was a tough one, but I'm like, this guy was baseball, and he really
Mm-hmm.
was to a point. So, all right, sir, your third pick. Who were you going with in your third pick?
Now, those who know me quite well know that I love going back into the archives. I've recently found old episodes of This Week in Pro Football with Pat Summerall, Tom Brookshire going back in the 70s. And a team I've also had many conversations with my mom about, because she always gets a kick when she mentions this team play, the then Oakland Raiders. And of course, you think of those quarterbacks, that's the one. As much as you love Daryl LaMonica and the Mad Bomber, the one who really solidified success, the rebel nature of the Raiders in the 70s, who else but Ken the Snake Stabler? Who else?
Yeah, the lefty, what he could do in the pocket, watching him move around. He was kind of the first mobile guy you would watch make things happen and what he could do. But when you work with the one of the best coaches in the world and having him there, it's unbelievable. So a great pick there too. Um, all right, this next one is a guy that you could say almost changed how basketball happened and uh, what he meant to the game. Whether he was a younger player uh, in his prime, whether or not he went to um, play for Team USA, what he did with USA, or now as an owner. And he still goes by this name. You would think eventually maybe he's going to change his name. You would think it's got to be legally changed, but you got to go with Magic. You say Magic, you know exactly who you're getting. Magic Johnson, you could have thrown Air Jordan in there, but it was Michael, it was Mike. This was a guy that had his name different. I mean, you got Magic Johnson there. So for me, I'm going Magic on that one. So we could have went so many other ways. We could have said,
We
what
could
about
have.
Muhammad Ali? What about the other ones? And you and I talked. You can't say all of these, but I'm going to give you an extra one there. Honorable mention, sir. Who would you go for an honorable mention?
For a very venerable franchise, and when you think venerable franchises, you think, your Giants, your Yankees, your Maple Leafs, your Rangers, big names with big teams, but very few carry the name of their franchise as their nickname. One of those big franchises, you see them at Wrigley, the Ivy, north side of Chicago, the Chicago Cubs. Who else better than Mr. Cub? Ernie Banks himself. He was just a perfect guy for that team. Wonderful person, great ambassador, fantastic player. And of course, as I put it, hey, everything's great. Let's play too.
Yeah, and there's so many different places you could go, uh, and so many different sports, and these guys have that that feeling about who they are and
Mm-hmm.
what they meant to the game, and that um this one is a little bit tougher for me to make a pick, but it boiled back down to what I saw and what he was like in the 80s. And I'm going to go just because of his look, what he looked like. And he was known for this. He was the intimidator. He was the man. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, too too soon, and Dale Earnhardt left us. But that look you see right there, that was him. That
It
was all about him.
it was just that look of this grizzled. I've been here. I've done things. I've come up from a lot. It just no. We're out here. This is mine. Come take it. Come take it.
That's 100%. All right, so you, sir, take Randy Johnson, the big unit.
Mm-hmm.
You also take the Golden Bear, Jack Nicholas, and you take also Kenny Stabler, the Snake. So, and with your extra, you're taking the Mr. Cub, Ernie Banks. For myself, I drafted. You got to go with the kid. You got to go with Ken Griffey Jr. Then I'm going to take the Iron Man, Cal Ripken Jr. And then for me, it is baseball. Yes, it is not Air Jordan. It is not Michael Jordan. I know Michael Jordan is the greatest of all times, but greatest nickname out of that, it's got to be Magic Johnson, Irvin Johnson, and then my honorable mention goes to the Intimidator. So when you're watching us, drop us a line. Let us know, who did you take, who is your guy, and let us know who wins that one. Dude, there are so many other names we didn't even get to. I'm just sitting here thinking about it. What about Dr. J?
Oh, Dr. J,
What
the
about
ice.
Spud?
Yeah, Spudweb, the Iceman, George Gervin. It's just basketball alone. It's just like, wow. And then you get into other sports. It's like the great one. It's, Super 8, Super Mario. It's just,
Yeah,
oh.
take your sports. You're going to end up having somebody, whether you had Iron Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, those names that change the persona of it. So it was quite a great list to look at as I was going through some of those names and thinking, okay, let's bring up some of the childhood. What was that all about? So, ah, dude, we're already at the end of the hour again, man, and it's been a great talking week. Lots of things going on. We got to spend a lot of time talking about the Masters. We talked about your Devil Rays going into next week. Anything we need to keep an eye on? Do we say Tampa Bay, the new record at 14-0?
I mean, we still got Boston. We go ahead. We have the sweep. At least at a minimum, build up a cushion in the division. I'm hoping for it, but I'm also going to say, hey, appreciate it for what it is. But if I were, of a propensity to go on certain apps and place certain bets or stuff, I would put it on yes. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to say yes.
I think it's a bold statement. Randy yells at me all the time because I look at schedules. I'm a schedule looker too, so you've got a great chance at it. Next week we will be back in regular time. Next week, Randy should be here. We have our dive into the last little bit of the NFL draft before that really ramps up next week. We'll recap the Heritage. The Heritage will be back. Uh, we didn't even get a chance to talk about Bristol. Bristol happened this last week. The race with that one, lots of things going on there. The wrecks, we'll talk a little bit about that, but so many things that have happened. So much sports that'll happen this week. So make sure you're listening. And again, thank you to Eric Watkins filling in for Randy Isbell again this week, as Randy is away with baseball. So we do appreciate you coming in and sharing the love. Talk a little bit about your Rays, your Western Bulldogs, and
Perfect timing. It was a great week to be on. And again, always glad to fill in whenever I can. Go ahead, everybody, even when I'm not here, tune in. You've got a good thing going. I'm just here helping out.
Yeah, so drop your lines if you want to follow Eric where he's at. Where can they follow you at, bud?
At Squid Sports Head on Twitter network. Little bit of a hiatus, but I'm keeping updates and everything. If you see me live tweeting and stuff, I'm getting more into that. You'll want to talk about whatever's on my mind. That's the best place to find me.
Yeah, send him tweets while we're watching the Western Bulldogs on Saturday, watching on a FS2. So make sure you're listening to that. Again, thank you. For Eric Watkins, I'm Robert Hagan. We will see you next week. You've been listening and watching the R&R Sports Report right here on Facebook and YouTube. We'll